He says that. That's gold.
Just it's spinning. You just gotta wait for it to pull up. Okay, we're live streaming and recording.
Good evening, everyone. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. Notice of this meeting was sent to the Cape Star and Wheat and the Atlantic City Press, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as the required notice under the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. We could all rise for a flag salute and silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Antoncello,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Dick,
Here.
Mayor Sabo.
Here. Let the record also reflect to my left, Deputy Municipal Clerk Aaron Sear, Clerk Teresa Antiato. So many folks saying, all right, Solicitor Frank Torado, his associates Eric Lozana and Joe Serra, our Steve Auditor, Leon Costello, our CFO Frank Donato, our Deputy CFO Doris Hartman, our Purchasing Specialist Lauren Celli. I think that's everyone. Thank you all for coming out. This is our budget workshop. We're looking over some preliminary numbers put together by our finance team. And I will turn it over. You need to turn the mics on.
That we're on sound footing here in the borough. We had a good year all around. We've got the financial statement done, so we've got the numbers that were necessary to put into the preliminary document. Lauren has already circulated some worksheets around the borough to gather some preliminary numbers. So we're off to a good running start here. We've got a template of the state document in front of you. And we're gonna do like we do every year, just run through it one page at a time, one department at a time, focusing on, each commissioner and which department, duties, utility, or offices are underneath your departments. We'll look at what was budgeted last year, we'll spend each category last year, and then what we're looking for requests for 25. We're gonna run through all the expense categories first. And then we'll flip back to the beginning of the budget and look at the revenues, utilization fund balance, and look at where we are preliminarily with the tax rate. Procedurally, we go through this portion first of the workshop, and then theoretically, once we have the document drafted, we could move towards introduction as early or as soon as your next meeting, your first meeting in March. But there's no rush. We're well within the statutory timelines here. So just a reminder on that, once you get to the introduction, let's say that was the first meeting in March, if we successfully introduced, then that would bring you back for a potential public hearing and adoption the first meeting in April. Again, which is a, it's a great timeline. Yeah. So with that being said, we can start with the appropriation side of the budget. We're going to flip back a few sheets to sheet 12. Says sheet 12 at the bottom. This is the Department of Public Affairs and Public Safety, which Commissioner Antoncello, I believe, is you, right?
Yes.
All right. So, just like I mentioned a minute ago, reading left to right, you see the name of the department or division that we're going to talk about. For the most part, every division has a salary and wage line item and another expense line item, right? Salary and wages for the people that are in that division, other expense for all the other items that are necessary to conduct that department's business for the year. Some just only have an other expense line item if there's no people in that division. Going to the right from there, you're going to see a 2025 column where we're populating some preliminary numbers. The next to that, you're going to see a 2024 column, which is what we budgeted last year. Going out further to the right, you're gonna see what we paid or charged to that budget this past year, and whether or not there was any reserve or any money left over in that line item. So that being said, we'll start with the director's office. Last year, it had a salary budget of 12,500. Delivering number for this year is 12,900. It looks like the expenditures are very close to that number. This past year, there's only $6 left over. So I'll just, I'll keep going unless you want to chime in, or if you have any recommendations, or questions, or, you want to, revisit a number, just let me know. The other expense category, same $1,000 as last year. For fire, these are two other expense items. There's no salary associated with the fire department. Obviously, it's a volunteer fire department, but the borough does contribute to the operations of the fire department in the form of miscellaneous other expenses, the first item. And that's the same $30,000 as last year. And it looks like for the most part, that was all spent this past year. It's only $74 left over.
And just to explain that,
Mhm.
right, for the public, and, those are the cell phones, et cetera, the, Utilities, et cetera.
Are in that part of it, correct. As opposed to the aid to the volunteer, which is the next line item, the aid to the volunteer fire company, which is more a contribution towards their operations, I'll say. So top line is more of the utilities and fixed costs. Second line is more, I guess, discretionary spending.
Victims,
Mm.
air packs.
Right.
So Frank, where would the expense for, say, hose testing and procedure, annual hose testing fall under? Like for the fire department? And aerial, testing of the ladders, apparatus, things of that nature,
Yes, I said the second one, aid to fire.
aid to fire.
And it looks like that was adequately budgeted last year. We had some leftover funds there.
So that 42,000 doesn't show up somewhere else as an aid to the fire department. That's just that line. So in other words, they only use 27,000 of the same.
Correct.
So,
So it's 70 is a statutory minimum, statutory maximum.
so in past years too, Jack, that, there were times when the fire company needed new air packs, et cetera, and we phased that in. 10 one year, 10 the next year, because that was a big ticket item to have under the need. So, like you're saying, hoses and other things like that. They're pretty judicious with their spending and obviously it's a volunteer fire company, so they have their own sources of revenue from donations.
And just to touch on the 42,000 left over, like Leon said, that's as of 12/31. Sometimes there are some bills that come in January and February that are still chargeable to the prior year budget for items that, there might be a little run out of expenses. So at that moment in time, it's 42,000 left over. Now, that money, like you were saying, it doesn't go to another budget. If that money remains unspent at the end of this year, then it lapses on balance. The only other item of expense in it we're going to cover is one of the later sheets that's associated with the fire department, so low staff program. And that's in the pension area of the document. Now, police, there's several items in this budget that aren't necessarily utilized, but we keep placeholders there just in case they were ever going to be utilized in the future. Police is an example of that. We're gonna talk about police later in the document because it's an interlocal agreement with Cape May City. But same thing with the police and the fire safety divisions. These are just $100 placeholders that we put in the budget documents just to hold it close. Now we're on page 13, sheet 13. Municipal report. An increase up to 150,000. Is the minimum number for 25. So that salaries were all utilized this past year. And then other expenses, a decrease from 2,200 down to 2,000. And then we have the public defender line item, recommending an increase from 10 up to 15,000 on that. This is an example of, see how we budgeted 10,000 last year in public defender, and then it says modified by transfers. So we had to transfer money into that line item throughout the year. that would have come before you in the form of a resolution of one of your meetings in either November or December, when we're statutorily allowed to add or subtract money from the budget that either has extra funds or needs additional funds. Municipal prosecutor recommending an increase from 11,000 to 16,000. In dog, right now, we're missing a number there.
I put it in 8,000.
8,000, okay. I think we're gonna round out your department on the next page, 14. EMS, this is an allowance for, the third-party billing agent to, bill the ambulance rides that are generated, through, around the borough. 75,000 is the same as last year. Public awards, employee awards program at $200, same, and same thing with the Board of Health, other expense, $200 is the same as last year.
So the emergency medical service on the ambulance calls.
Yeah.
And we had reserved at 12,000, so we didn't exceed it.
Yeah, that one's a little hard to predict based on the number
Yeah.
of runs.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Lawrence reminding me that the 62,000 doesn't include the fourth quarter yet. We don't get that bill until early 25. So it was, yeah, okay. So it's likely to be over.
Yeah.
So that rounds up your department, Commissioner. If there's anything you wanted to revisit, or if you have any questions on anything, we can certainly do that later in the evening as well, but, all right. That being said, we're gonna move over to Mayor, I believe this is your department. So the director's office, there's a recommended increase from 19,900 salaries up to 20,300. And the same other expense line item of $1,000, same as last year. Our departments within this department as well, salary and wages, up a few $1,000s from last year, 122 to 125, 7. And the same other expenses at 16,000. Elections, same as last year, $6,000. Then we have financial administration, we have salary and wages, couple $1,000 increase from 71.5 up to 73.5. They were all equalized last year. We have other expenses broken into two different categories. First is the miscellaneous other expenses for the day-to-day for the office is same $8,000 as last year. And then $1,000 increase in the audit service line item from 23 to 24,000. All right, we'll get into the tax collecting division. Increase from 66.6 to 68.5 this year. So it was pretty tightly budgeted last year. And then a decrease in the other expenses from 2,000 down to 1. And in the assessment of taxes, an increase of $400 in the salaries from 18.5 up to 18.9. And then the other expenses increasing by 1,000, going from 5 to 6. Legal services, there's no salaries because Mr. Corrado and his associates are a contract. They're not employees, but they do the other expense category that covers those costs. So we are looking at an increase of 50,000 up to 95,000 preliminary for this year. Looks like we had to transfer money into that line item this past year. And then another placeholder, no, not necessarily placeholder, we had some expenses, but liquidation of tax title liens, other expenses, a $200 line item. And then the grant coordinator, this assists the borough in applying for grants from time to time. That's an increase of 2,500 to 20,000.
And that's only if we use the service, correct?
Correct. Yes.
How was that, was it an estimate that they gave you, I guess, between the each? Yeah.
Carrying on to 15B, we have planning and zoning reports.
It's 9,000. Top one.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Salary and wages last year was 8,000. The recommendation for this year is 9,000, 25, not the 4,500 that's on the paper. Other expenses, same at 10,000. Zoning officer, slight increase in salaries from 52 up to 53.6, and the same other expenses at 3,000. Code enforcement, a decrease here, from 47.6 down to 38.3, and the other same other expenses at 500. And then construction code enforcement, other expense category was 1,600, same as last year.
Lauren, the code enforcement, that was the reduction of the part-time person.
Just different employees.
Okay.
And then rounding out this department on G15C, historic preservation, 30,000. Tended to be a grant match last year. Reapplying this year, okay.
Yes, not actually, a new allocation,
Okay.
because we had it, right?
We had it, just didn't spend anything like that last year.
We transferred all someplace else.
Yeah.
What was that for again?
Service.
The service, okay.
Say that by much.
Three different insurance items, the first two of which, we can pretty much say with certainty because we come through the joint insurance fund, our membership in the joint insurance fund, general liability and workers' comp insurance. General liability is actually decreasing from 63,000 down to 54, but an increase in the workers' comp from 26,000 up to 58. And then employee group health, which is also shared with the utility, by the way, because of the personnel that cross over and you know, benefit the current fund and the utility fund. But for the current fund share, relatively flat. Actually, I'm sorry, decreasing from 285 down to 255. And as for our membership in the state health benefits and employee or care, that's net of the employee contribution.
Why did the workers' comp insurance give us so much? Was that, do we make claims? Well, we didn't have any claims.
You actually get a bill for this, and the joint insurance fund, it varies every year depending on what the usage is. So you can get a copy of that.
We saw the same thing in Ocean City.
This bill that comes to you shows you the allocation between general insurance and workers' comp. That's the number that we use.
So they changed the way they allocated.
Yeah,
In the budget, it's really just, you know, the workers' comp and the liabilities is different categories for property, general liability, auto, the workers' comp, and then you have cyber, employees practice liability. There's, you know, full breakdown.
Yeah, we can have a copy for that.
Okay.
Yes, all commissioners.
Lauren says it was emailed in the budget information packets, but I'll get you a copy. And, yep.
I don't think that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
It might have been sent. I don't think.
It's in June.
it's in here now. I also requested that all stuff be hard copy to me as well. And left on my desk to pick up.
The increase in office expenses.
Yes,
Paper.
yes. I don't have a computer otherwise to check on my home. I have to come to the office and find them out here.
Well,
I don't have a laptop either. I use the office computer. If I'm not here, like today, I didn't get an email to check.
no,
Some of this important needs to be copied and sent to me.
These were sent
into my
weeks ago,
desk.
Mr. Tomasello. They were sent weeks ago.
I'm not gonna argue with people. I want a hard copy. It's things of this nature that's important and not some quick email. No, I'm not gonna get, no, I'm not gonna be here. Thank you.
So that rounds out your department, Mayor.
thank you.
Anything that you wanted to revisit, let us know.
No,
Okay. All right, last but not least. Public Works, Parks, and Public Property. Once again, starting off with the Director's Office. Salary wages, steady from last year, $12,750, and same $1,000 in the other expense category. Next division is road repairs and maintenance. Little increase in salaries from 120 to 124, 250. And the other expenses remaining the same, 12,500. Public buildings and grounds, isn't just another expense line item at $75,000, same as last year. Emergency management services going up a few $100 from 8,500 to 88. The other expenses remaining the same at 1,000. Recycling, salary and wages remaining the same. And the other expenses also 2,500. Last year. Continuing on with your department, 15B. Trash and recycling services are within your department as well. Yep. We have the garbage and trash removal increasing from 122 up to 130.
Is there any escalation in the contract line? You know, why it's went up?
It's actually our tipping fees where we're seeing the most money.
Okay,
We can't control them.
gotcha. So,
This covers obviously the cost of the contractor that picks up the garbage, but also the tipping at the anyway. So. Engineering, looks like we're looking at a decrease there from 25,000 down to 15 for this coming year. You got a few, like I said, sort of placeholder, categories in recreation, parks and playgrounds and shade tree, the next several. Environmental commission, $500, the same as last year.
the environmental commission should be under Jack's. It should be under
That
Jack's.
should be under, the first department.
Yeah.
Okay. Make that change. And that actually rounds out your department commissioner. Before we get into some of that stuff. So,
Yeah, the only thing I'm good setting is that the line item number 1 should be exactly the same as, the other department. It's not,
It should be 12.
the
it should be 12
directors.
12%.
Okay.
Got it.
Back. Once we get into sheet 17 and beyond, where you are exiting the departmental, portion of the budget, getting into the city-wide expense line item, we're recommending an increase of going from 1,000 to 5,000 next year.
Well, we're talking about the possibility of using some of that celebration money for,
Use it in the park?
Using it in the park, yeah, so that would give us a little
buffer.
yeah. But, explore that fully, but it'd be a nice idea for community time.
General office operations, be like a more of a citywide, office operation budget increasing from 90,000 up to 110. And some utilities, electricity, looks like an increase from 35 up to 40. We had to transfer some money into that category last year to meet the demands. The bills, street lighting, same thing, looking at an increase there. We had to add about $5,000 to the budget last year, was 42.
Are both those correct in given the fact that the NFC Electric has put out a 17% potential increase and going up 5,000 is 14% and going up 5 is, it's not a match on that, or is it more prudent to give enough buffer so we don't have to go back into a resolution to change it?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if the BPU was gonna approve that increase, that's something we should consider. I mean, then if there was
And
increase.
they also asked for an 8%.
Percent past year, which probably justifies why we had to transfer money into both of those line items.
Yeah, I think that's low, but
We can take a look at that. Telephone up 1,000 from 19 up to 20. Fuel and oil and gasoline, recommending a decrease from 15 down to 10. And postage, staying at 7,500. Nothing really on 17 other than some subtotals. So if you flip over to 19. All these full-time employees are members of the public employee retirement system, otherwise known as PERS. You get an annual employer appropriation bill from the state, which is due every April 1st. That bill is actually decreasing this year, which is good news. From 16 down to 109. Employer share of Social Security, 54,000, going down to 50,000. And unemployment compensation insurance, an increase from 5,000 to 6,000.
Those decreases are just that the total amount of salaries that we're paying is not based on the
Percentage
the
basis.
people mix that we have now.
Correct.
Okay.
And a defined contribution retirement plan, probably one or two people. One, gotcha.
And is that a match? Is that a
That's
a
a,
match?
that's an employer match, yeah. That's the part-time, version of PERS.
Excuse me. I have a question on the police and fireman's retirement system. Is that, there's 5,000 to 6,000 allocation? Who's that applying to?
That's, there's nothing in the PFRS from the 5,000, 6,000 you're looking at as unemployment insurance.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't have any contribution to PFRS.
Even the judges on that stuff, even the prosecutor.
No. And since police is an interlocal, they take care of the contributions over there. G20, I mentioned earlier, the low SAP, contribution increase into 27.1. This is, length of service, the work program for the volunteer fire department. And, that's nothing you improve health on this page because of all inside the gaps. And that's it.
We had, for the LoSAP, we had one more person become eligible this year. We do what we can.
You can skip over 20A, that's just subtotal page. Then one item on sheet 22, again, just mentioned it a minute ago. Interlocal agreement has a contractual increase with the BK Bank for police protection services. It's going up from 547,000 to 558.
And that's just the excavator contract? And is that net of the rent we're getting for the building, or is that comes somewhere else?
That's somewhere else.
It's on the revenue side. And does that have the same escalator?
Yeah, I think it's still higher. Not to be able to beat it. It's all like, it's. I mean, what years is that, but I think.
Is it the same for the rent contract too? It's, they're on the same term, okay.
This scale, like the 5.8 to 5.15, 5.25 number for 25, that's based on the old contract from 2016 to 25 at that time. So the last year.
The current contract.
Yeah, that's the last year in the directors. Now, what do you think it's gonna be though, when we negotiate?
That's the last year.
Yeah.
That's
It covers us for 25.
That's
So sometime throughout this year, you have to negotiate.
Sure, I know, it's kind of sure.
26.
I'm gonna skip over 22B and go to sheet 24. Grants are obviously state and federal programs that are, apply for funds for different programs. They're on both sides of the budget, meaning they're on the revenue side of the budget and the expense side of the budget. So they generally don't do anything to your tax rate, but they're shown as an in and out the budget. We don't have anything known for 25 yet. So something appropriated.
This is what the sale they give us. Well, that's what we talk about that, that's nothing. There's $20,000 match, which you can use any of it, and Lauren, I didn't see any match on the sheets. So it's a matter of, we can put 5,000 in here for something.
Yeah.
And
That would be if you got a grant later in the, down the road after the budget's adopted and maybe it requires a match. We want to have some money there and have some fun, yeah, exactly. And so you can accept the grant, be able to.
and all this will fill in as the year goes on. You'll be, you do a thing called chapter 159, and I remember seeing this resolution that's coming before you. Where it says we want to certain revenue and expense, so lighting out. So it always starts out low and it fills and it builds.
You adopt the budget with whatever grants you know about at the time, but then you'll see resolutions throughout the year come before your agendas. They're added to some budget, yeah. Municipal lines, yes.
Yes.
You're gonna bring that resolution to the next meeting, you said,
Yes.
so whatever I'm at, yeah.
But the match wouldn't be any more.
It's not much yet.
Yeah, I think it was like 600 something.
640.
Yeah.
All right, so that sheet will fill itself in as we go. We skip over 25 and the other sheet is 26. Capital improvement fund is for the purpose of putting a down payment in the borough without the bond where it's periodically sort of capital improvements. Park improvements, purchase of a fire truck, whatever, whatever falls within the capital categories. Improvements to buildings, we did some work on this building a few years ago. By definition, a capital improvement has a useful life of at least 5 years. In most cases, should be longer. If you, at bond ordinance requires a 5% down payment. So $1 million bond, they would need a $50,000 down payment, for instance.
And we have $100,000 reserved right now.
Because we ended up using the last 2 years.
Yes, so that could be $3 million worth of this year.
Because we clock off.
Because if you keep the same 50, like I said.
But if we take nothing, it's too much.
The good thing about capital improvement fund is you budget it.
It doesn't go down.
Yeah,
It doesn't go down.
it gets turned over to the capital fund and it stays on reserve there. So it's not like it lapses on balance if you don't use it. So the,
Larger
Yeah.
projects than.
so, and that's where you want to consult with your engineer, kind of look at the capital plan, what's on the horizon, see what in the town needs some updating or replaced. Skip over 26A and go to 27. Now, speaking of those bond ordinances from prior years, they create debt that needs to then be paid back. And that's in the form of bond principal and then bond anticipation notes. So we have debt service that we go back for previous capital expenditures. $400,000 in payment bond, that's what was the same as last year. Recommending $60,000 payment down on our capital notes that are outstanding. The interest on the bonds coincides with the $400,000 from the top. That's decreasing. It's kind of like a mortgage. The more you pay down in principal, the less your interest payments are throughout the maturity schedule. So that's decreasing from 68,000 down to 60. And then the note that we had about bond anticipation notes, very similar interest rate last year, 72,000 down to 70.
And the bond itself, 400,000, that runs through 2029, so we have 4 more payments after this year on that. That part would be debt free, and then ordinances that we've done, notes that we have, we convert to another bond.
We carry a relatively low amount of debt in the post. So you don't have to worry about this.
What is our ability to take on more debt? How much more debt could we take on? It's a lot. Yeah, a lot. That's what I would assume it is based on. Yeah. Okay. Not that we want it.
Skip over 27A, that's just a total page. 8. Yeah. Didn't have debt issued on it, where we need to pay down the balance of it. And hold ordinance from 2013, actually. That we'll get off the books by paying down $20,000, get that, right to that.
Last year we moved that 4 of them.
Yeah. Then from there, we are going to skip over and talk about the utility bill. So we'll go back to sheet 34. Okay. Start 32, sorry. Start with the expense of the utility. Which is really a simple budget. It follows the pattern of the previous departments. It has a salary wage and another expense line of looking at an increase in salaries from 172.5 to 178. And again, there are employees that are either fully or partially dedicated to the utility that also do have responsibilities in our fund operations. Recommending the same expenses of the minimums are 50.
And at 337 security will be left over. That's either is it either December bill or quarterly bills, is still not engaged against that.
And the fourth quarter has been MUA. Or Gateway City, yeah.
Right.
Another item, again, the utility carries its own debt, similar to the county fund. We've loaded it for previous USDA sponsored projects at the bottom of 32B. This number's been $1,600,000. It's still in just the USDA programming. Again, those are for past projects. And then last but not least, the utility, very last page, the package in 33. Social Security for the utility while unemployment, prorated share is charged to the utility, $15,000 in Social Security and $2,000 in unemployment.
Let's go back to the revenue and utility, we'll get, knock that out already here.
Just a quick question on the social security, should that be exactly 6 point, whatever it is for social
We
security?
just round it up.
Rather not,
Yeah.
okay.
Remember, whatever you don't use goes back to the fund balance.
Yeah, that's just,
Or if you need to transfer to some other line, you have that in your own other things.
Wanted to go back and look at the revenue side of the utility real quick, which is 31. Don't forget the expense side, I've been back. Budgeted to bring in $1.4 million in rents and in budgeted in rents, as well as 185,000.
As far as the surplus goes, you can see that we're using less because we have more usage fees coming in. And the surplus last year was 508, and we used 235 this year. Surplus is up to 680 because of the additional money we'd like to, we're only using the one, so we're in really good shape, solid wise, so no need for rating.
So fee increases that were passed in the past year or two helped to insulate the utility and help to build a little reserve there. If we are okay with the utility.
Yeah.
Okay.
I received certain ones, I did receive things, we, forms, we claimed, I have a piece of paper here that said that water and sewer expense for 2024 is $718,000.
Commissioner, turn on your mic. Thank you.
It goes to $718,000 for 2024 sewer expense. And then the water and sewer revenue to 2024 goes to 1.5 million. How do you get that jump? I don't know where it came from. It's on this statement.
that's what I'm,
So we have water and sewer expense 2024 for $718,000. That's the MUA, Gateway City sewer and water. I don't know what Gateway City sewer is, but it's only MUA. They must charge it, they must time to be on. But then it doubles right below. So I don't see it here. How do we get to this number? That's a little confused.
So the 724 in these was just intended to capture the major expenses.
Yeah.
Out of the utility, not every single expense. We can fill in the blank where you can run the rest of the report if you'd like to see it.
Yeah, on this report in my email, it's one number, and then it doesn't say down here in this budget report today. There's just different calculations in the.
This is only 3/4. Okay. Yeah, we can get you the rest of that. That makes up the difference. If we're good with the utility, we can go back to the beginning of the packet and talk about the revenues for the current fund. And we're going to start on sheet 4 with that, which is the second page back. Every year we have a surplus, which is back. Fund balance figure increased this past year, which is good news. $1,502,000. And each year you use a portion of the fund balance as a revenue to help support the budget, and the rest of it stays in reserve. It's sheet 4, yes. At the top, we recommend using a little bit more surplus from going from 650,000 to 660. Running through the rest of the miscellaneous revenues, we have licenses where we budgeted 27,000 and pretty much hit that right on the mark last year. Brought in an extra 75,000, or I'm sorry, $75. That'd be nice to get there. Recommend keeping that the same as 27,000 anticipated. Municipal court, we budgeted 10, even a little bit over 11,000. Looking to keep that the same at 10,000. Interest and costs on taxes, which is people that pay delinquent taxes. Brought in a couple thousand extra there. Budgeted 24, came in at 26,400. Looking to keep that steady at 24,025. If we flip over to sheet 5 from there, one item which is called state aid. It's in the form of energy receipts tax, which we anticipate to be steady at 90,368. The municipal relief fund, which lived for a couple of years in the state budget, has now been eliminated. So that's a deep, again, we're not going to see that $93 million this year. I talked about grants being on the expense side of the budget. On sheet 9, you see the same grants on the revenue side of the budget. So they are really, in and out. And again, those numbers fill themselves in that and become a very grants. From there, we're going to sheet 10. We have some of our bigger items of revenue. We talked already about the KPC lease. This is in conjunction with the police department or local to the rear of this building for their utilization of that space, going up from 44,045 649. Each year we bring money into the budget from the liquor trust fund, and that's from the sale of 2 licenses from years ago. We've been bringing it back in $100,000 at a time for the past several budget cycles now. And how much?
276 is there right now.
There's 276 left.
276,000.
Right. And if we use 100 again this year, be down to 176, obviously. So we're starting to get towards the end of that. So something to be mindful of a couple budget cycles from now. Court contribution, we backed that number down to 93,000. That's based on what we collected this past year. And then the occupancy tax is the quote unquote Airbnb, VRBO, transient market tax. We did well on that this past year. We anticipated to bring 150. The number came in at 186. So that's good news. The extra 36,000 fund balance. So we picked 160,000 the target for this coming year, conservatively. Cannabis tax, again, good news in that we budgeted 90 and brought in 207.
Excuse me, the occupancy tax, Lauren, on that one sheet that Jack just was referring to, it's 168 as opposed to 186. Is that just not inclusive
So
last month?
when Lauren's reporting it to you, she's giving you the actual month receipts. Like, so July, for instance, we left in September. So she's reporting it to you on an accrual basis.
Okay,
We, in the budget, it has to be cash basis. So it's whatever we collected in the calendar year.
okay.
So
Yeah,
that's
so
the difference is the 2 months lag.
yeah, understand. Yeah.
Okay.
I just, since it was 186 and 168, I thought it might have been it's the flip flop.
The 186 is what came in cash in from January. So
Gotcha.
Just one line back, Frank. It says Cape May City Court contribution, you have 93,000 anticipated for 25. Now, that's not really court, that's more salary contribution versus court contribution.
So yes, it's salary.
It's the salary,
Yep, we work up a bill, send it to Cape May City, and it's salary, and then we also bill for payroll taxes and health benefits. But so it's a portion of.
but it's not what the court brings in.
Correct.
Just the
No, it
salary.
has nothing to do with
Yes.
fines and costs and things like that. It's percentage of salary. Last but not least, like I said, cannabis, we budgeted 90, it came in at 207. And that's another one where there's a lag. So in calendar year 24, we collected the fourth quarter from 23, and first, second, third quarters from 24. So we picked 1,000 as a target for 2025. That is the and the revenue section. And now that we've got some numbers filled in and some projected revenues based on our projected revenues, Lincoln can tell us where we are tax rate wise. For that, what's with the it's
Variable base is 541, 788, 700. That's when your bigger increases that you had. And the tax levy is up $49,000, which isn't a whole lot. And as of right now, it's 0.3% increase on the tax rate right now. We have some flexibility in several revenues to make it work. We're well under the cap on the levy, but we're just barely under the cap on the balance and some of those revenues to get rid of. It would be $10,000 worth of stuff that we have to change to do that and make it zero easily. The one thing I do want to talk about is that cannabis tax. Remember, all during this period of time, we were practically the only game in town. Nobody around would have it, so everybody had to come here together. So now that there's 10 more places spread up and down Gateway County, people that wait from all the way up to here, down to here, can stop here, here, just to get it. So,
There's not 10.
pardon me?
There's not 10.
No, whatever the number is, I'm just saying.
There's one.
Just one.
Yeah, the Little Township one, there's no
I thought Laura didn't put any in.
one.
And Mel hasn't.
Did that open?
Yeah, it did
The
open.
one on Avalon Boulevard?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just saying, and there'll be more popping up there. That's when that probably shrink your revenue some, your, who knows how much.
Yeah.
We've already seen the 20% reduction in the last couple of months, so.
Yeah.
That, I think that would be somewhat.
Yes.
We're talking,
It's good.
talking about this, something down in the car, and very careful. We may not see that 200 again, maybe high speed again, so who knows? But we'll have a better track record in another year, to see where we should settle with that. Also, your fund balance grew, but it grew by one big thing, and that was to sell that one piece of, so that's a one timer, which Frank was talking about the debt service. If we could use some of that one timer to do some one time debt service payoff, then they both go away in the budget the following year, or we could just leave it there for rainy day. But you wouldn't want to anticipate that tax decrease because it's not going to reoccur. That's the goal. And you're going to be out, the $100,000 for liquor license in 25, 26, and 76,000 on the 7th. So you ought to be holding on to some of this stuff to make sure that you're covered on for it, because we want to see something that's like this, not as good as the tax rate goes.
Yeah, the 100,000 in the liquor license is worth approximately 2 cents on the tax rate, so.
Yes.
gotta-
We don't hurt anybody to have it.
The one-time big hit of the 344, the way it was written, the spending plan for affordable housing was that we could continue to get revenue from that transfer of the lot. And it's something not gonna be worth 344,000 additional, but they talked up to them with $50,000 that we could potentially get. Because the limit was, we only could take $30,000 out of the trust fund for that particular thing. They divided it into segments on what you can do with the trust fund. That's all you can do is transfer the property. So we took everything we could in 1 year, and then they said we probably can get additional, but not for sure.
We're still at $500,000 in the first one. Yeah.
And regrowing.
So since you're so close to zero, you want to make it zero?
Yes.
That was easy.
It's a feel-good number, isn't it?
So if I make the fund balance instead of 670. That'll probably do it. So, oh, no, no, it's up to the one. Okay, so. Yeah. No, that's it, leave it there. Okay, that's what, that goes up and down each year, there's different things happen, then you don't know what's gonna happen there. There'll be, live there, be on the same side, but remember, something else may happen, you'll need to transfer from someplace to someplace, so. So it will, when you introduce this, it will be a zero. And it's not fake, it's very comfortable, you know, from fake Italian food. Was trying to get someone like 8 euros. But this one's not a problem, like I said, you were both the caps, I was worried about the appropriation cap getting made it. One of the reasons why you made it is that your additional variables this year generated $33,974 more of spending power. That saved you, because in other years, that number was very minimal. But the way the cap law works, it's new construction, times your local tax rate only is an add-on. That was a big add-on this year. So that was, would bail me out. I mean,
It makes a lot of sense.
yeah. So it's legally, it's all fine. There'll be no tax increase. Our balance is good. We're not rated to make this a no tax increase budget. It's pretty much a normal increase. The 675, you probably will replenish. You have all the rest of your problem. And then what do you need? This is the first run for this. We came and put in and start. So a lot of times we start and if it come down the road, we need to take it. This will work.
Appreciate it. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
No, you'll get back to me on the question and answer fees.
So
I'm ready.
This time I'll open for public portion. If anyone from the public would like to come forward and speak, now's your time. Do you want to come forward, Jack? Done. Oh, you good? I'm sorry. Oh, good. Okay. You didn't do much better. Okay, seeing no one else wishing to speak, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
The second motion.
Commissioner Antoncello,
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Dick,
Yes.
Mayor Sabo.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Who's-
I don't know.